Dr. Casper here with final thoughts, final comments, final questions. Promise this time, no fingers, no legs, no toes, nothing is crossed. We are going to do it. We're going to get through this here. Kimberly has a question about semiotics. Okay, so taking a semiotic approach to media analysis, to what extent do you believe we should take these things such as science into consideration? Yes, the stock and trade of semiotic analysis is to identify and organize and possibly translate these signs and symbols and their overt meanings, their covert meanings, right? Their communicative meanings, what values. This is why Berger's focal points model is in fact not only a media analysis technique, it's also a bit of a semiotic model as well. We talk about breaking down these components, right? The five focal points, as he calls them. Have there been any interesting shows that break the genre stereotypes or perhaps conventions, in your opinion? What platform were these shows on? All right, so are we talking about genre blending and genre mixing? Is that this is the ultimate combination, right? So genre theory is all about imitation of form, right? So if there's a literary form to a genre, how well is it adhered to, right? The certain expectations that audiences, the consumers, that readers have for that text, that the imitations, right? The imitative parts, we call the conventions. And then there's the inventions, right? The innovations, the new things you add to that genre, you add to that text. And that's what kind of heightens our excitement, right? It's the things, there's that combination of the things we see coming, those expectations, and the things we don't see coming, the innovations, all right? So imitate and innovate. And so there's a lot of this genre blending, genre mixing happening on programming today. And since you mentioned interesting shows, a show that's been talked about in several of our comm courses is Game of Thrones, and this is no secret now, but a big reason it caught on early on was it's a play off of fantasy tropes and conventions. It's taking all of these conventions that are kind of institutionalized in literature and popular culture, and then it flips many of them on their head, right? There's a kind of, that's that realism or that almost cynical, that cynicism that many of the characters embody, is that it's mutating our standard conventions for the sort of sword and sorcery tale, if you will. I've talked about Breaking Bad previously and how that happens. We've also read about that a little bit in this course already. It's a show that twists the conventions. Anything that's in exploring anti-hero shows, anything that's moving marginal characters like evil characters, flawed characters from the side of the story, the margins, to the center, becoming the protagonist instead of a supporting character or antagonist, that's doing genre mixing business. Another text that comes to mind, FX crime series Justified. So this is it's many things. It's a crime drama. It's a kind of backwooded Kentucky Southern Gothic potboiler. It plays with new types of story conventions each season. It's also it's a kind of Western, right? A neo-Western. So these are some of the things to keep in mind. These types of shows, and no doubt there are even children's programming that does similar business. Okay, Aaron has a question. It has to do with Berger Messages, Chapter 3. Do you agree with Eco's analysis of Dr. No, that the main opposition is between Bond and the villains, or Berger's analysis that the opposition is between Dr. No and Honeychile? Do you see a different primary opposition than these two? Yes. Okay. I agree with both of them, sort of. What I see as the overarching norm of at least the Connery era of Bond, but definitely some of Roger Moore era too. You see Cold War opposition, right? So I see Cold War opposition above all, and I think that adds fantastic layer to the series. You're seeing Western ideology, Western states, and their dominant views and values of society and how it should function properly, right? Hence, Bond acts proper, right, until he's threatened, versus the Soviet, right, the satellite states, the USSR, or excuse me, Spectre. So basically, Eastern Europe and Asia are coded as the international other in this franchise, and that film series for a long time takes on that mystique of East versus West. Okay, this is steeped in binary opposition, Cold War opposition in particular. But even after the Cold War, the Brosnan era, they're still reflecting on that whole bit. All right, there's a speech in there in GoldenEye about the Cold War's over, so what are you doing? You know, Bond's a dinosaur, and so on. In the sociological analysis, uses and gratification, the result of analysis seems to lie primarily with the audience receiver. So audience reception studies, I'm hearing. How important is the role of the artist or sender in this method? Okay. Nope. Actually, I didn't respond to this question yet, so won't be able to without stuttering and stammering too much. But another thought on that Cold War opposition that I had was, if you want to read the Bond franchise as this East versus West metaphor, it's everything that's not Western powers versus Eastern powers are chess pieces on a board. And Bond is definitely not a king. He's not a queen. He's a knight, right? Because he's Arthurian, right? He's a mythological workhorse savior type, right? But he's not afraid to kind of get in the mud, or in fact, he has to, right? He's a trained killer. So yeah. And Arthurian legend is definitely a way in which Western cultures mythologized about their own historicities, ways in which they cope with, thinking about present ideas, but reflecting on past experiences as people groups. I'm gonna jump ahead here. This was where the question came up. Given how Berger is such a huge fan of the Bond franchise, can you take Casino Royale and break it down into props 31 functions? I can, but I won't. I think I can. I like the challenge. I love this challenge. In fact, hey, maybe this is an exercise for punish a future class with your exceptional question. But the Propian analysis can be, this is a structural functional analysis, can be a very useful tool in understanding a given text and its properties, but we're going to table that for now. Using messages. Using signs to lie is an interesting concept, bringing us back to the center here. As mentioned by Berger on page 55, we are always so preoccupied by what we see that we often miss the message that is hidden underneath. Agreed. We all lie, and we all use signs. In poker, this would be called our tell. What is your tell? Okay. So I'm going to respond to this. I'm going to respond to this in typical spy cryptic fashion. Okay. What is your tell? If I told you it wouldn't be symbolic then, would it? All right. Well, let us think about that. Ponder the symbols and the symbol systems. What do they all mean? In any event, folks, we are coming up on a super duper celebration of not only this course, but the new direction in the communication major. And so be on the lookout, because one of our upcoming videos will be our 100th video spectacular for the MACU Communication, Media and Studies, Communication, Media and Ethics major. And hopefully we can find a Sexy Spy location to have our 100th video together, which will take place at some point during the Communication 2113 Media Culture and Social Influence course. I look forward to that video experience with you all. Thank you, and we will be in touch soon.